The topic is dualism or the dichotomy in geography. The word dualism that indicates to divide anything into the two parts. That is the dualism. Dualism is related to the methodology of the geographical study. The dualism simply means the state of being divided. Dualism in geography is the conceptual contrast stance in the methodology, and it's purely related to the methodological approach in the geographical study. Actually, dualism in geographical study is very ancient and old one. It's bifurcated the subject into the two parts within the same time frame, and it's divided the subject in many branches. Dualism basically promotes discussion, argument, counter argument. It's just opposite opinion to the each opinion to a particular opinion. It helps to develop a subject, helps to rearrange the subject, and it's diversified the subject matter. In brief, dualism divides the subject in many branches, and it's basically the conceptual ideas, and that's related to the methodological aspect of the geographical study. The geography has been encountered several methodological issues since the beginning. The diversified methodological issues eventually converted to the dualism and the dichotomies. The dualism in geography is ancient one. Greek scholars like Aristotle, Herodotus, Hecataeus, they stand for the physical geography. On the contrary, the Roman school of thought, mainly Strabo and Ptolemy, Strabo stand for the regional geography, and Ptolemy stand for the mathematical approach in geography, and within the same time frame, Arabian school of thought, they stand for the physical geography. So geography dichotomy in geographical study is ancient one. From the early beginning, geography evolved through the basically two types of methodology within the particular time frame, and those are the general geography versus regional geography. Those are the general versus regional, physical versus human, deterministic approach versus possibilistic approach, quantitative versus behavioral, etiographic versus nomothetic, inductive versus deductive, modernism versus postmodernism. We are all familiar with the various types of dichotomies and dualism in geography. For brief discussion, here we only include the systematic versus regional, physical versus human, because we are all familiar with the environmentalism versus possibilism. So, straightforward, we are studying systematic versus regional approach and in geography. Uh, the regional versus systematic approach, that is also related to the basic methodology of geography. It's also very ancient one. It started with the era of Varenius, that is 1650, and then it is evolved, that is the general geography. General means regional. Regional approach meant the chorological approach. It's related to space. Geography is a spatial science. It's related to the ideographic approach. Let's go for the next slide. Now come to the general versus systematic. The general versus systematic, that dichotomy is also very ancient. It started during the era of Varenius, most probably in 1650. Varenius recognized the geography as a subject, and he divided the subject into the two parts. First one is the general part, that includes the universal attributes, and second one is the specialized, that is called the particular. So Varenius is the pioneer who introduced the concept general versus systematic. General part includes the universal phenomena, and special part includes, then it's converted later in the systematic part. So what is the difference between the general and systematic? Basically both are the two different approach to study the geography, to understand the subject through these two different methods. First one is the general. General is also called as a regional geography. The general methods normally focused on the interaction of the different culture, different physical environment of the specific land or the landscape. Rather, the general study, that is also called as a regional geography, studies includes the particular region with reference to the geographical element. Here for the general study, it's also known as a regional geography or the chorology, that is related to the particular region. Then elements, that rather geographical elements comes later. First priority is the particular region, then geographical elements comes later. And on the contrary, the systematic approach in geography or the systematic methodology in geography studies a particular element of over the earth. Systematic geography related to the element. Basically, first priority is the element, then comes the geographical attributes. And regional geography or the general geography, first priority is the space or the region or the landscape or the particular uh, geographical space and or the region. Then other geographical element comes later. So it's basically those are the two different approach. Systematic approach basically focused mainly on the element of the earth's surface, then other geographical attributes comes, and regional or the general geography basically focused on the geographical space, then other geographical element comes later. First one is the priority is the geographical space, and second, for the cases of systematic geography, priority is the particular element. So its basic difference is the focus of attention and the priority of the attention. Our Varenius is the starting point, but this dichotomy is quite long. It is started from the Varenius, then it's basically the general geography follows the rules of idiographic approach, that is the social science approach, okay, and the systematic geography follows the pure science approach, that is nomothetic approach. I have discussed a lot. And Varenius is the starting point. He was the supporter of general geography, and Kant stand for the systematic geography. Then Humboldt was the strong supporter of the systematic geography, and Humboldt also spelled out differences between the general and the systematic geography. He divided the geography into the two parts. First one is the uranography and geography. Uranography is the celestial body and the geography is the terrestrial part, that is the systematic geography. And basic concept of Humboldt is that he wrote in Cosmos, in his books Cosmos, that is the unity in nature. Basically the concept unity in nature is related to systematic geography. On the other hand, Ritter, basic concept of Ritter is unity in diversity. That is the basic concept, the as a whole as in the part, as a whole as in the part. This is the basic concept of regional geography or the general geography. After that school of thought, that school of approach or school of methodology, general or versus systematic, developed and achieved and got support by the lots of geographer and philosopher. Alfred Hettner, who stand for the chorology, also supported the ideas of general or the regional geography. The French school of thought, most of the people of French school of thought, including Vidal de Laplace Vidal de Laplace and the Lappe concept of Vidal de Laplace is nothing but the study of geographical space. That is the approach or methodology of general geography. He supported that approach. Then Hudson was the champion and the strong supporter and argued a lot in regional geography, in favor of regional geography and the general geography. His famous books, that is Nature in Geography, published in 1939, and he argued the concept of areal differentiation, that is related to area, that means the geographical region, and if the geographical region or geographical space differs, then its physical attributes as well as the human interaction with the nature and the cultural attributes varies. This is the starting point, and this is the strong argument on behalf of general and regional geography. So in brief, regional geography follows the inductive method, that is social science approach. It is developed with the views of Ritter, Hetzner, Vidal de Laplace, the Lape concept, and Jean de Vie of Vidal de Laplace concept of French school of thought is nothing but the regional geography or the general geography, nothing but the attributes of regional geography. And the basic and core etiology of Hudson from the American school of thought, areal differentiation, that is the core etiology of Hudson, is nothing but the argument on behalf of general and regional geography. Basically, regional geography gives priority to the region and attributes related to the region, that is the general geography. Okay, and normally they believed in deductive approach and come to the systematic approach. Systematic approach basically is the nomothetic approach. It's developed with the hand of Kant and the Humboldt, and Darwin also is nature selection, natural laws, all are the element specific. Those are the nothing but the systematic approach. Then Ratzel and is the champion regarding the field of systematic geography. He wrote a famous book, that is the Anthropogeography. On that books he argued in favor of systematic geography. Here the element is the priority. And the famous book of Rickles, that is the La Terre, that is also the argument on behalf of systematic geography. Here the priority is the element, then the geographical attributes or spatial attribute comes. And champion of the systematic approach or systematic methodology in the field of systematic methodology, champion is the Schaffer. Basic concept, basic argument of Schaffer, that is related to the systematic approach, and he argued in favor of nomothetic approach, that is the element specific and then geographical attributes come. So Rickles, Humboldt, Kant, Ratzel, Darwin, German school of thought, British school of thought, up to some extent Schaffer was German, they argued in favor for systematic geography. This is a one important methodology of the geographical study, it's element specific. And on the other hand, general geography, that is chorology, that's related to space or region is the priority. Here the Hudson, Vidal de Laplace, Hetzner, Ritter, Ritter, those are the champion in the field of general geography. Basically, general is the priority of the geographical space or region. Systematic study or systematical geography is the priority of the element. They followed the nomothetic approach, and general methodology normally follows the ideographic approach. Okay. Second important dichotomies or the dualism in the field of geography is the physical geography versus human geography. Dichotomy of the physical and human geography is old as discipline of geography itself. It's a very ancient one. Greek were probably the first who started the dichotomy in physical versus human geography. Okay, this is the first step. Geography is bifurcated into the two parts, physical and human geography. Okay, we are all familiar that the ancient school of thought, especially Greek school of thought, they argued in favor of physical geography. Hecataeus stand for physical geography. Then Roman school of thought, Ptolemy and the Eratosthenes, they stand for the Ptolemy was the Roman and Eratosthenes was the Greek. They argued for the physical geography is the only geography. Then Kant and Humboldt. Humboldt divided the subject into the 4 parts: climatology, meteorology, biogeography, and physical geography. And then Darwin also argued in favor of physical geography. Then we are all familiar with the American school of thought, the person who belongs to the American school of thought, that is the William Morris Davis. His cyclic concept is very famous, and the cyclic concept of Spank from the German school of thought, and non-cyclic concept of L. King. Those all the lots of geographers who argued in favor of physical geography. So through the concept of through the contribution of Hecatus, Ptolemy, Eratosthenes, Kant, Humboldt, Darwin, Davis, Spank, and King, and so on, they developed the subject through their own school of thought and own school of methodology, that is the physical approach and physical methodology, and that developed by them. They cultivated and they inculcated the part of physical geography, that is physical aspect, astronomical aspect, lithological aspect, hydrological aspect, atmospheric aspect related to the terrestrial earth. On the other hand, the Strabo, Roman school of thought, Herodotus, ancient school of Greek school of thought, Rachel, German school of thought, and Sample, American school of thought, belongs to Huntington, American school of thought. Then Carl Ritter, that is German school of thought, contemporary of Humboldt. Then British school of thought, Mackinder, famous for his power politics strategies theory, that is Heartland theory. Then Carlos Soar, who famous for the cultural landscape concept, that is he belongs to American school of thought. And Vidal de Laplace, famous for the Lappe concept and belongs to French school of thought. And Mark Jefferson, famous for the primate city. All are argued in favor of, belongs to the humanistic school of thought, and they argued in favor of human geography. So you basically here, from that point of view, and from the very ancient period in the time of Herodotus, geography is segmented into the 2 parts, that is physical and human. That is the output of dualism. Here the subject is bifurcated, and lots of sub-branch comes from the dualism.